Está con nosotros uno de los visitantes a esta cita. Me refiero al presidente ejecutivo y también CEO de Lundin Mining, que en Chile opera Candelaria y Caserones. Me refiero a Jack Lundin, a quien le agradezco por estar con nosotros. Bienvenido a Agenda Económica, Jack.
Thank you for having me.
Mi primera pregunta es, ¿cree que es probable que se le aplique una tarifa de 25% al cobre?
I'll have to be honest that your guess is probably as good as mine. It's very uncertain how things are going to play out right now with the tariff wars that are kind of ongoing between the US and other countries. Right now for Lundin Mining, we have cathode production from Caserones, and that cathode production is going into the US, but it is currently exempt from tariffs. And so while we monitor it closely and will adjust accordingly, we really don't know if it's going to come into effect or not.
Más o menos el 74% de los ingresos de Lundin Mining vienen del cobre. Si se aplican estas tarifas, ¿cómo cree que pueda afectar al precio del cobre?
Yeah, of course it would have a punitive impact on the financials for our company. Today we're about 75% geared towards copper production. However, when we sell our European assets, and that transaction is expected to conclude this quarter, we anticipate that we'll have close to 90% of our revenues coming from copper production. So of course we will be a copper dominant company, but again, if tariffs are levied on our production, most of our concentrate production, actually all of it is not going into the US. So we shouldn't have significant impacts on our business, but more impactful is, I think, the market turmoil that is a result of these escalating tariffs.
Acaba de mencionar que ustedes a través de Candelaria le venden cobre a Estados Unidos. ¿Están desarrollando distintos escenarios si es que las tarifas se aplican?
So it's actually only the cathode production from our Caserones mine that's going into the US. We have a diversified portfolio of offtake clients for our concentrate production. None of that is going into the US. So we would largely be unaffected. But again, I think the impact is volatility in the commodity prices that, of the metals that we're selling. And so we wouldn't like to see that happen. But I think we are today quite well insulated from the tariff impacts that are taking effect.
Como una empresa canadiense y también como una empresa minera, ¿están haciendo tratativas, están juntándose con otras empresas quizás canadienses y también mineras para tratar de influir en que las autoridades estadounidenses no apliquen estas tarifas?
At the moment, we're focusing on what we can control, which is our business and the operations that we currently are running, and trying to maximize the value from there. Of course, we engage across the sector with industry peers. We try to understand kind of if there's areas where we could provide influence and try and have a positive impact on the situation, then we would very much entertain that. But currently, right now, we're just focusing on what we can control, and that's the operations and the people within our organization.
Hablemos ahora de nuestro país. Antes de la entrevista usted me mencionó que viene aproximadamente una vez cada trimestre a Chile, viene bastante seguido, y opera en Candelaria y Caserones. ¿Qué representa Chile para Lundin Mining?
Yeah, Chile is the most important region for Lundin Mining's operations. Right now, once we conclude the sale of our European assets, we'll have 3 operating mines in South America, 2 here in the Atacama region in Chile, and 1 in Brazil, and then 1 primary nickel mine in Michigan called the Eagle Mine. And so Chile for us is an important jurisdiction. It has been since we acquired Candelaria in 2014. We have strong engagement with our stakeholders here. We're very pleased with the operating climate today in Chile. We have a regional office in Santiago, and so every quarter I try and come down from Vancouver with the executive team where we go to the mine sites and we have internal reviews of how things are going, and we continue to explore for opportunities. I think with Candelaria and Caserones being so close together, we also have a port and a desalination facility in Caldera in the Atacama region. All of this infrastructure is very strategic, and as most of the production is coming from these 2 operations here in Chile, we see a bright future ahead for us in this region.
Cuéntenos sobre el plan de inversiones que tienen para nuestro país.
Yeah, so For us right now, our primary operating mines, Candelaria and Caserones, I mean, both of these operations have sustaining capex that we're implementing each year. We also have growth opportunities that we're looking at pursuing. From both of these mines, you know, when we're in peak production, we can do close to 300,000 tons of copper, but we're also exploring areas for expansion in and around these operations. And I think that's a really key successful lever for Lundin Mining, is the fact that we can continue to explore and replace mineral reserves. Candelaria in 2014, when we made the acquisition, had a 14-year mine life. Today we've got a 22-year mine life, and we've got more than double the amount of reserves to mine from. So we continue to make investments into our operations to try and extend mine life. And now, because we have Caserones 120 kilometers away from Candelaria, looking at tying infrastructure together in the future will also add economic benefits while minimizing environmental impacts.
¿Y cómo pretenden hacer esa unión, ese lazo entre las dos operaciones?
Well, right now, the first thing that we've done is we've formed a regional office here in Santiago. And so a lot of the general service departments that were serving one operation in the region, now we can serve both. So we can, you know, rationalize the positions here in Santiago and have kind of a central operating hub that allows us to really see how we can maximize and combine contracts and look at supply chain synergies. And then from an infrastructure standpoint, if we see one day that we could potentially bring the desalinated water line that goes to Candelaria, because right now all of the water is either being recycled or used from the desalination facility at Candelaria, potentially we could look at bringing that water line up to Caserones in the future and provide water resources that way.
¿Y están desarrollando estudios para ese proyecto? Porque serían 120 kilómetros de tubería para llevar agua desde el mar.
Yeah, it's one of the studies that we are undertaking. You know, also looking at the port facility that we have, there is a sufficient spare capacity, and so utilizing the infrastructure that we had with Candelaria to see how it could support, you know, future growth and also our existing operation in Caserones. I think these are very important levers that we want to really tap into.
Es muy importante lo que nos está diciendo, Jack, porque en los últimos años en la industria minera, acá en Chile sobre todo, las inversiones grandes son para mantener la producción, pero ustedes están hablando de aumentar la producción y eso es una muy buena noticia.
Exactly. I think what we want to do is ensure that we can have a stable production profile with an opportunity to grow. And really the best way to do that is from understanding existing operations to get incremental growth and putting money in, doing the study work, doing the engineering, and seeing if we can expand production. At Candelaria, we've got an opportunity to look at bringing more throughput from the underground. So Candelaria has both open pit and underground mining. We're seeing if there's an opportunity to increase the mining rate from the underground where the grade is higher. And then at Caserones, we've got great exploration potential, and the team there is really re-energized in looking at if we can improve the mining rate from the open pit there. So, you know, taking all of that together, looking at kind of those incremental growth levers for both Candelaria and Caserones will really support our medium-term opportunities as we look to grow significantly through the Vicuña district, which is you know, just over the border in Argentina. Vicuña Corp is the newly formed joint venture that we have now with BHP.
Precisamente eso es lo que yo quería preguntarle ahora, porque el año pasado anunciaron esta alianza con BHP para desarrollar el distrito en Vicuña. ¿Cuál es el principal objetivo?
So in July of last year, we announced that both BHP and Lundin Mining were going to be jointly acquiring Filo Corp and forming a joint venture. We also had 100% of the Jose Maria project within Lundin Mining's portfolio. BHP bought 50% of that. And now, in January, closing the transaction, we formed Vicuña Corp, which hosts both Filo del Sol and Jose Maria. So these two deposits, right now, we're working on coming out with a resource estimate on both Filo and Jose Maria. That resource estimate will form the basis for an integrated technical report that we're targeting in the first half or first quarter of next year. And that will kind of show the phased development and the sequencing of how we plan to go into construction and ultimately operate this district. But the first kind of, I think, key catalyst for us is this quarter coming out with a resource estimate on both Filo and Jose Maria.
¿Cree usted que el desarrollo de distritos, este tipo de asociación, es el futuro de la minería? Porque Codelco y Anglo American lo anunciaron algo similar hace poco.
Yeah, I think what's very unique for Lundin Mining is the fact that we are working on a project that has the potential to become one of the world's largest copper, gold, silver districts. And so it's a huge growth opportunity for a company of our size. And having a partner like BHP that knows how to operate and knows how to build big operations like this, it's very significant. And I think that it will show that we can combine complementary skill sets that BHP can bring and that Lundin Mining can bring, and we can really focus on what's best for the joint venture. So I think being able to collaborate, being able to share ideas, being able to tap into existing infrastructure is something that will drive maximum benefit and maximum value from the asset. So we feel confident that the construct of this arrangement will do that.
Jack, aparte del tema de las tarifas, también de los vaivenes en el precio del cobre y la incertidumbre mundial por distintos temas, ¿Lundin Mining está aquí en Chile por el largo plazo?
You know, we run a long-term business in the mining sector. When we look at making investments, we look at 10, 20, 30 plus years. And so everything that we do, we have to do with a long-term lens. Of course, we have to factor in the current macroeconomic environment, and that will influence decision making. But for us, we've spent the last 10, 11 years really growing our presence, growing our understanding. I feel strongly about also enhancing our reputation here in the region. And so that is something that we feel will continue to be core for Lundin Mining going forward.
Jack Lundin, presidente ejecutivo y CEO de Lundin Mining, muchas gracias por haber estado con nosotros en Agenda Económica contándonos los planes que tienen para nuestro país. Que esté muy bien.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.